Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast, a place to discuss pain, passion, and pursuits.
Let's get it. I want to feel alive.
Breathe.
Make some moves.
Protect the throne. This is Sexy Freedom Media Podcast.
Welcome to the Sexy Freedom Media Podcast. It's your host, Helen Edwards, and
January Liddell. Aloha.
Today we have our residential doctor back with us. Welcome, Dr. Gretchen Gavero. Please share a little piece of you and what you're about.
Well, thanks for having me back. I'm a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and a budding online educator. So I'm starting to get into social media and online courses. I'm happy to be here. I'm here to talk about mental health.
And specifically, Helen, you have our topic for the day. What is our topic for the day?
Yes, so our topic for today is going to be Dr. Gretchen Gavero's mental wellness tips for this holiday season. And we're going to start that by jumping into our first question, Dr. Gavero, also known as Gretchen to us.
Yes.
The holidays can be a time of joy, but also a time of stress. What are some common mental health challenges people face during this season? And why do these challenges tend to peak around the holidays?
Yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling a change in mood now. So some of the most common that I see in my clinic and in my personal relationships too are symptoms of depression or sadness that are just hard to lift, or anxiety. A lot of this is from not just this change in season, but our schedule and our routines are just so different during the holidays. There's so much different external pressures too, from like just preparation, gifts, family stuff or gatherings, even managing work responsibilities because of the things we have to do. So I think one way to understand this is looking at physiology, psychology, and environment. So we can think in that framework when understanding this holiday pressures and impact on mental health. So first, let's just start with our environment. What's external to us? There's the family gatherings or the friend gatherings, the work parties. And depending on the values of your work or your family, just culture, it could be stressful, right? There's like different comments and different conversations that we have to involve in. This is especially hard when we're going into interactions with unresolved tensions. So that's one. Negative interaction with others. Even like imagine just shopping for your Christmas meal or your gifts. The malls are crowded. There's too many things happening outside. So this can worsen things like if one has social phobia or anxiety, that can worsen that. If we go past Christmas and we think about New Year's, just again, we're focused on environment. Think about the fireworks that are coming out. Like someone with unresolved or lingering symptoms of post-traumatic stress, those fireworks and loud booms can worsen symptoms. There's pressure from work schedule. Imagine the courage to ask for that extended time off. That can be hard for some people. Home environment. Kids are home during the holidays and relatives are visiting and you might be traveling. So the change in just our surroundings already can give us a lot of triggers. Now let's look at physiology. Physiology is how your body functions. So let's look at the body. A lot of us are tired just physically during this time. The demands are different. We're running around. You might be longer hours so that you can stack up vacation time for the holidays, or maybe even just try to make that extra money, for this season. Substances can also have an uptick during this time. When people are stressed, sometimes they result to higher consumption of drugs or alcohol, or even just going to parties. Yeah, so we have to think of that too. Something that's common for places where the seasonal change is very significant. Like in Hawaii, it's a little bit different because always sunny most times here. But in other places, even the change in weather where you have less sunlight exposure can cause something like seasonal affective disorder, SAD, SAD. Really interesting because that has to do with light exposure impacts our hormones and our hormones impact our mood. So that less sunlight, sun rises later, sun sets earlier, that can impact our mood. And our last pillar is our psychology, our mind. During this holidays, there's a lot of feelings of loneliness that can come up. And that could be for many reasons. Could be from loss, isolation from loved ones, either it's because of work or geographical separation, family tensions, yeah. Lack of social support can exacerbate this feelings of loneliness because you see it on TV, you see it on all around you, this idea of gathering. And if you don't have that accessible to you, that can be hard. Also, there's a little bit more negative self-talk for some people. An example might be you're looking at social media and you're looking at people posting, "Oh, I'm doing this Christmas stuff with my family," or "have the biggest Christmas tree." You know, it can worsen this pattern of comparing yourself to other people, and that can not be good too. Negative self-talk focus on things like I'm not good enough, like I'm not a good enough host for parties or gift giver, those kinds of things. That can be really just that can hit us. And again, going back to the seasonal affective conditions, yeah, that winter blues can lead to really mood symptoms that play in our cognition. So lots of things, and those are just some.
So, how can individuals recognize when holiday stress has crossed over into something more serious like depression or anxiety, and what steps should they take if they find themselves struggling?
Great question. So to keep it simple, there's many steps, and I'll break down some of the simple ways to take care of that. But one thing to remember is that your body and your mind will always give you clues. And so if we just take the time to pay attention, we can catch these signs early. So physiologically or body wise, you can have changes in sleep. Might be hard to go to sleep. You might have broken sleep, nightmares. You can be waking up early or sleeping too much, low appetite or overeating or binge eating. So remember, high changes in adrenaline and dopamine can affect all of that. Low energy and even low sex drive. So it can affect your intimacy and relationships. So those are some of the body signs. Psychologically or mind wise, you can have changes in thoughts and your emotions. For example, problems in concentration, focus, forgetfulness, easily distracted. Stress, as we know, can do that. And when this is starting to really affect your functioning in taking care of your kids, at work or school, preparing for finals, at this time of the month, that can get affected. Also, one might have feelings of guilt or self-blame. Now, when that starts getting pervasive, got to pay attention. Because of these things, you might not be enjoying the things that you used to enjoy. So this is what we call anhedonia. You might like playing video games or going out with your girlfriends, but then all of a sudden you're noticing that you're saying no a lot more often. As the severity increases, one might have feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and even suicidal thoughts. And sometimes in severe depression, things like psychosis, where you're out of touch of reality, and maybe some paranoid or excessively suspicious thoughts can happen. Catatonia, where the mind, you can have repetitive movements that are uncharacteristic of you because of that high stress and increasing symptoms of conditions of depression. You can have the opposite where your your mind is really just shutting down, and it's making you not want to eat, move, or even talk. So those are serious signs that really need support. Some other common psychological signs to watch out for would be severe ruminations and preoccupations. Like you just can't shake off negative thought spiral to the point where it's really affecting, again, your functioning, the different areas of your life where you really need to be on top of. If one already has underlying conditions, the symptoms might worsen. For example, if one has OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, it's so common, this condition. During this time, you can have an uptick of the obsessions where You latch onto a thought and can't shake it off unless you do something, which is the compulsion, like your excessive hand washing or checking or those things. Someone with schizophrenia, which is a thought disorder that has to do with being detached from reality, those symptoms can increase. Paranoid thoughts can increase. In addiction, drug use can increase. Even things like if people have skin picking or hair pulling conditions, those things can also increase. So we got to pay attention to these things. Lastly, again, going back to the environment, how you interact with your environment can also give you clues, like increased irritability, and that affects your relationship. You're snappy with your kids or your partner. You might be isolating from other people. You might be those suicidal thoughts, if they're brewing, if that gets to a point where you're going to places and you're starting to imagine how you might harm yourself in those places. That is a very serious sign that needs attention. And again, I talked about neglecting responsibilities. And so the main point here is your self care and how it affects your self care is important, and your functioning in the different areas of your life can be affected. So I want to go back to the second part of the question on what to do. There's so much stuff. I really enjoyed preparing for this talk. So one is I really think that all of us need to get in the habit of checking in with ourselves. You really ask yourself what's going on with my body, what thoughts are looping in my head, what's happening around me, and how am I interacting with my surroundings? Because that awareness gives your mind something to work on. Yeah, it helps you identify something that you can control, like your thoughts and your emotions. Especially when we talked about the signs to look for. Reach out for support right away. Talk to someone, a trusted friend, family member, even a therapist if you're working with one. The earlier, the easier, the better. When depression and anxiety symptoms grow, for example, we get tunnel vision, The mind really starts believing that, man, the world is against us and there's just no way out. Yeah, the mind can go there. It's harder for our minds to see the big picture. And that means that when we are with someone who we trust, that person, that help can help pull you back and recenter. So that's one. So checking in, getting support, taking care of your body. People want like a magic solution, but really, if you go back to the basics of taking care of your basic needs, sleep, eating habits, movements, and we know exercise, so much evidence that this is one of the best things that you can do to really lift your mood. Might be hard to think of things, change your feelings, but when you move, like when you dance, when you exercise, that puts your body in a different state and causes all kinds of new signals for your nervous system to get you out of a funk. One thing I want to emphasize is rest. And this is for all of us busy people who have many responsibilities. Really learn how to ration your energy. Our bodies and our minds are not built to be on 24/7. Yeah. Every few hours, you're on switch, like being productive and getting things done. That has to recalibrate. Anything in the body that comes up has to go down. Your adrenaline goes up, has to go down. Dopamine goes up because you're excited and motivated. That has to come down to recalibrate. If you're not resting throughout the day and not allowing that recalibration to happen, that rise is just steep. That means your come down is also steep. It's like a crash landing rather than a smooth come down. That's why, if anything, we need sleep, right? We need good sleep. It's kind of like when you go on vacation and it's super exciting, it's fun, so busy. And then when you come home, you're like crash. You need a vacation from that vacation. And that's kind of what happens, like many versions of that throughout the day. So, gosh, one message I want to give to everyone out there is do not pack your schedule, especially because it's already packed this holiday. Don't add more. Have it a challenge. Make it a game to clear unnecessary things from your schedule. Account for rest. And I'm guilty of this too. Like busy time in clinic, everyone's stressed out. So my clinic is packed, right? And so I have to put my rest in my schedule and I have to honor it. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Yeah. And so you can put those pit stops for yourself. And yeah, please put your phone down when you're resting because your eyes need to rest. You need sensory rest. We're in the computer all the time. A few more things about what to do for January's question. Consider professional help. Reaching out to someone can really give you tools if it's the right person, as a skilled person. Therapy, counseling, meds for some people, if recommended. Those those are not signs of weaknesses. They're really signs of strength because you're paying attention to your self care. And remember, I think I've said this before. It's not all about breathing techniques, and it's not all about journaling. You really need skills to, all of us need skills to redirect, reframe, or resolve pervasive, unhelpful thoughts. Because remember, our thoughts design our emotion, and we make our decisions and we behave based on our feelings. So, like thoughts of I'm not good enough, gotta catch that, especially in this holiday. And you can start now. Many things you can do on your own. Like as a starter, just look at your self-care habits, ask what things lift you up, who lifts you up, write it down, create a plan to make them happen sometime this holiday season. Don't feel guilty about taking that time, you know. Self-care is really it's one of the most important, most productive things that you can do for yourself because that makes you more available for the people that you love, especially this time. Long answer.
I appreciate you sharing all of that. I'm actually going to replay that because there's a long list of things that I should be doing. One of the things that resonated with me was when Sam was deployed and it was just Junior and I. He was 6 weeks old at the time. And I noticed that when I did pack my schedule, going to 3 or 4 different stops, I realized that I was at the end of that, I was so cranky. And from that point on, I said, oh, I should only put in like 1 or 2 things that I should be doing that day, especially if it was just me and a little baby, you know. But even now, as a mom, right, as an entrepreneur, I still am noticing that if I do pack my schedule, as much as I think I can do it, I can handle it, I really can't. My body is going to shut down. So, and the other thing I liked what you said was honoring your time that you set aside for self-care. I think that's one thing I'm guilty of is that I have that blocked in my schedule, but I don't do it actually. And if I do it, I'm on my phone. So thank you for the reminder for getting off my phone because I tend to, when I self-care, I am scrolling on Facebook and I'm like, and Instagram, and I'm like, oh, let me look at these funny videos. But that is not helping me. So thank you for the reminder.
Very good tips on that last question. Okay, so when it comes to family gatherings and social expectations can often create tension, what strategies would you recommend for managing difficult family dynamics or avoiding holiday-related conflict without sacrificing personal well-being?
This is a big question. Sounds like everything, most of the things that I'm talking about in my work with my clients now. So I think of it in 2 layers. One is what do you do in the moment, and even before that, how do you prime yourself or prepare yourself for these gatherings? So my go-to in any situation is always a self check-in. What what's my body like? What am I thinking? What do I want to happen? Yeah. If I am in gatherings or preparing to go to gatherings, like hosting something or going to parties, I always have to ask, what is my energy like, and what's the energy that I want to bring into the room? Because we all influence each other's energy, and because we influence each other's energy, I have to think about how can I protect myself from other people's negative energy? Because I don't want that. You know, I think about what do I want to feel really when I'm going to these places and really focus on that, imagine, visualize how that's going to be. Because when you put on that lens, that's what your brain is going to look for rather than being on edge and focusing on how strange or awkward a situation might be, right? So we have to focus on how we want it to be. So asking beforehand, what do I need to do to take care of myself so that I'm in a good space to interact with other people? When it comes to family gatherings or friend gatherings, parties, boundaries is always the first thing that comes to my mind. And there's different types of boundaries, right? So there's your time boundaries, conversation, and other types of boundaries. So remember that if there's one thing to remember, once you're already in the party, know that it's okay to step away if you need a break, because remember, your environment and influences your thoughts and feelings every single time. So if you cut the circuit of going down a spiral, that's good, because then you can reset. Take a break, go in someone's room, play with a dog or something like that, just to cut that negative circuit and then restart again. So don't feel guilty on doing that too. Be mindful of your time. So the time boundaries is very important. Sometimes it's helpful to think ahead of time, like, okay, how long am I going to be there? Sometimes you can even you can prime other people so that they can also set their expectations. They know that you're going to be there only a certain period of time. So we're kind of preventing any like hard feelings or surprise walkouts kind of thing. You can say something like, okay, I'll be there for 1 hour or 2 hours. Yeah. And that helps us, set our, it just sets the frame for what to expect. Conversation boundaries is something that I would encourage everyone to really think about. Like, think about especially the election just happened, right? All of us have all kinds of ideas and feelings about that. Think about, if that comes up, is that a conversation you want to engage in at that time in that setting? Or do you need to make it known that, I don't really want to talk about politics right now? So there are certain things based on the people that you're interacting with that what are the safe topics and not safe topics for you and for them. And that's going back to what kind of vibe or energy do I want to have? How do I want to feel in these gatherings? Because then I can guide my conversations, to support that. It's okay. Have some default things to say, like, I'd rather not talk about that. Yeah. Something that's very common is that you haven't seen family members for a long time, and then you're in this big Christmas gatherings or New Year gatherings. And then some of our family members would make some comments, oh, you gained weight, oh, you lost weight, what are you doing now, without them knowing that you're out of job, those kinds of things. So prepare some default responses. And again, don't feel guilty. Yeah. Be really present, because this will help you look for things to be grateful for in the moment, small moments of joy in these interactions without focusing on past hurt, tense history. If there are things that are unresolved, and you're about to go to a party with people with unresolved stuff, decide ahead of time if that's the right time to hash this out. Yeah. Maybe have a pre conversation with them. A few other things, because it's such a um, common stressor to be in these gatherings. Like, if you're too much inside your head, like your mind is loud, and you're focused on fear that people are judging you, focus that attention outwards. Like, not imagine your spotlight rather than that being scared of what people judging you. Focus it outwards and focus on really listening attentively to people. We really don't know what's in people's head. And even if they look nice and friendly outside, they could be like the worst critic, right? Or if someone might look upset at us and we're thinking, oh my gosh, they're thinking something about me, they could, it could be that they're the most anxious person in the room and they're worried that you're judging them. Yeah. So the point is, we really don't know. We really don't know each other's brain, what's going on inside. So listen intently. And I like thinking about, as I'm listening for people talk, what are they bringing up? What are they excited about? Because then I can ask them about that. Like, right? Pick your conversations wisely. Don't get caught up in like gossips, pity party, or something like that. It can be time to really tune in also if someone is trying to reach out, because all of us, have some sort of feelings during the holidays, and you might find the desire to offer help. And if that's the case, it feels good to help. It's a win. It's like a win-win gift for you and the person. So I hope some of those, I hope some of those would be helpful for whatever you're going through in the gatherings.
I love I love that list. And
Yeah.
what I love especially, and I find it so fascinating, is that when I go into business meetings, when I go into some type of presentation, I always have to remind myself, hey, this is how I want to be. Hey, this is how I want to show up. But I would never have thought in the back of my mind that, hey, this is what I should be preparing for when I go to family gatherings or some other type of, function where there's a lot of people, that we should prep to tell ourselves what kind of vibe do I want to portray? What energy do I want to give at that party? And that's so important for anything, not just business, but personal as well. Whether it be this particular Christmas, we are talking about Christmas, that gathering, or just any type of gathering, period, because I think all of us can get kind of nervous or anxious about that particular event. And I think the other thing I like what you said is have default things to say to people, and make sure that you have these phrases beforehand. So that's prepping. What I hear you saying is prep before you go to these family gatherings. If you are in a position of, I feel anxious, I'm nervous, I'm all these different feelings that you may be feeling, then prep a few days before, a week before, and really have this type of feeling, whatever type of feeling or energy you want to bring or portray at that party, then you should already be prepping, or it's like acting, right? You're basically acting it out at the party. I get it. So awesome. What are some evidence-based strategies for maintaining mental health and emotional balance during the holiday season, especially for people who already have a history of mental health issues?
Yeah, so this is something we touched on. A lot of the evidence-based strategies are already the ones we touched on earlier. So one is prioritizing your self-care and taking care of your basic needs, so sleep, nutrition, exercise, all the things we tell our kids to do. These improve your resilience, it regulates our nervous system, prevent mood problems. For example, we know that exercise boosts endorphins. Endorphins masks pain, physical and emotional pain. It reduces cortisol, which is your feeling like you need to get something done now. You need to do something about it now. It improves your sleep. And sleep heals all of that emotional stress throughout the day, right? So all of these help stabilize the mood. So research is strong on that. Developing your self-care, your check-in habit, like getting in the habit of taking a pulse on yourself. Again, lots of evidence in that. The pause and the reflection, even asking simple questions like, okay, how does my body feel and what do I need? What am I thinking? And what do I need? What does my mind need? How's my surroundings? This allows you to manage stress and improve emotional regulation because you're attending to your needs and you're pivoting each time, right? Rather than waiting the end of the week to change. I also believe this there's so much research on mindfulness and self-compassion. And I really believe that these practices help you, it kind of gives you a buffer between your stress triggers and your stressful reactions. And if you get into practice, and find a practice that's right for you. It's not always just sitting yoga pose, eyes closed kind of thing, right? There's all kinds of mindfulness work. It's really about being present, non-judging, moving along, yeah, non-attaching. There's also lots and lots of evidence about connection and minding your relationships. Remember, relationships and connection, that's good for your nervous system. Your hormones and neurotransmitters are stimulated by bonding, connection, being with your tribe or your people. Yeah. So what's interesting is we might be talking about like hanging out, gift giving, those kinds of things, but physiologically, it's connected. There's all kinds of things that happens inside our body that just lifts our mood when that happens. Yeah. Especially for people with history of mental health concerns or issues. Be on top of your treatment plan and self-care plan. Yeah. We can have a whole episode on how to advocate for your needs when you're working with your healthcare professional. Yeah. But it's really important to proactively seek out information from your providers, from your therapists, from your doctors. You need clear, actionable plan. It cannot be a fuzzy plan, yeah, so that you're healthy and that your condition is as stable as possible, because the point is you are living your life and having fun regardless of what condition you have. Yeah. So seek help if needed. So those are some, there's many others.
Those are all really great, especially the exercise one. I know the first thing people usually think about is, oh my gosh, work out. That means I have to go to the gym. That means I have to go to, you know, walk or run. But I always suggest, because look, sometimes when I get in my funks or my depression moments, uh, they debilitate me where I find myself on the couch. I don't want to get up and I want to shut my brain off. So therefore, I've cut off a lot of circuits already. I'm not thinking on my own. I'm just watching and my brain's being entertained like a child, like a babysitter watching a child and cutting off the communication from the parent to the child, like which is, me and my higher conscience. And then I'm lazy and I don't want to get out. I don't want to get up from the couch unless it's to go pee or get snacks. So I've and then I can feel myself getting more and more lethargic, tired, angry at myself for not, doing things to help myself. But then again, I'm shut off. My brain's shut off because it's preoccupied and entertained with uh, TikTok or Netflix. So, or maybe both at the same time. So, one of the things I found is I encourage myself like, okay, get up and dance just for even a little bit. And I get really tired. I'll stand up and I'll start dancing and literally 5 minute dance and I'm exhausted and I'm laying back on the couch and I'm like replaying this cycle, but I wear a Fitbit and my goal is usually 10,000 steps a day, but I don't always hit that goal, but I just tell myself like the whole compassion thing, have compassion. Just get up, and then you're right about what you talked about earlier, seasonal depression too, with the weather. I come from Arizona, so the winter and cold is something that I'm not used to, like a lot of snow, and that also puts me inside the house a lot. So I'm freezing. That's another reason to stay on the couch and stay in a blanket. So I really think the thing that really stuck out to me was when you said, "What is your relationship like with your environment?" And if I could just turn that switch on and look at what I'm doing from like standing like an outer body experience and saying, "Oh my gosh, Helen, I love you. I don't want to see you just rot away watching Netflix and being cold and not moving your body and eating a bunch of snacks. And then you wonder why you're gaining weight and why you're tired and why you feel helpless and why you have so much negative self-talk. You know, like, please get up just for a moment, walk around the house, walk on your elliptical in your gym room, things like that. Or even one of the things I started doing was I have access to YouTube. So just like TikTok and Netflix, I have access to YouTube. So in the mornings, I started playing screensavers of beautiful, like Christmassy, good vibes. During Halloween, I did the same thing, something that brought in some really happy, good vibes. They play jazz, they play Zen music, and it actually has been helping my morning routine better. It's been helping my brain better in the mornings. And then also Zumba is available for free in your living room on your TV or on your laptop. Um, Another thing is I don't like to walk, so like I said, I have an elliptical, but it's just the simple things like you're saying. It's the simple things, changing things up so you don't find yourself caught in a I don't really care what the experts have to say. I'm stuck. You're not stuck. You're not powerless. You can and you will find the strength to get up little by little. So I just wanted to share my own situation when I get like that because I do get like that throughout the year and oftentimes during the season when the winter and snow come.
Helen, hashtag aligned, because I was going to share that just looking at an image of the sun or having the image of a beach, because when I was in Texas, being in Texas, we had a range of seasons, which we didn't have in Hawaii. And my sister, Audrey, had sent me this beautiful image of Bellows, and Bellows is actually my favorite place to be. And it's the image of an ocean, the two islands, the palm tree, and of course the sun is shining. And even just looking at that actually helps me a lot. So when you talk about YouTube and having, Christmas in the background or jazz, I mean, that really does help me. And I love that. I love that Gretchen has talked to us about, just being mindful. I think being mindful is super important, especially when we're feeling depressed and the whole checking in part, genius. Of course, we should check in. We should ask ourselves, hey, what's our body feeling? And I'm realizing that a lot of my own issues is rest. I'm not getting enough rest. And when I say rest, I mean our mind too. Because Helen, you and I, all of us, I mean, our minds, the way that we function as entrepreneurs, 24/7, and it can go on and on and on in a loop. And I know for me, I have to redirect myself. And that's one thing that I'm learning in the book, Crucial Conversations, is that if there is like a tough conversation or a tough situation, right? Like we're talking about Christmas, if we're talking about gatherings and there may be a little bit of a trepidation there, we have to redirect our minds, redirect our where we are and reframe it and talk about something else. Even just and this is another thing that I was learning was that even our hips, something about our hips hold a lot of our emotions. I don't know who said that, but I saw that somewhere. And so even just like circulating our hips like a hula hoop and just circulating it will help kind of shake things up a little bit in our system. And I think just moving, right, is what you're saying too, Gretch, is that as long as you're moving, when you're feeling a certain way, whether it be depression, anxiety, fear, all those things, if you just get out of that particular bubble and start moving, whether it be dancing, jumping jacks, walking, right, something, then that's going to shift. It's going to help us shift. I know we have one more question. Helen, did you want to share that question?
Sure. So the question is, many people feel isolated or lonely during the holidays, especially if they are away from family or experiencing a loss. What can individuals do to cope with feelings of loneliness, and how can they seek connection in a healthy, supportive way?
Common experience for many of us, many people. So yeah, common symptoms experienced during the holidays. And yeah, it could be from being away from family geographically, loss from passing of a loved one. And it may be like someone who's passed like a long time ago, too. It doesn't have to be just now. Could be loss of a pet, breakups. Yeah, all kinds of losses can cause these feelings of loneliness. So I think of this as depending on the situation, it might help to actually lean into that feeling, but in a healthy way. For example, you can let out these feelings through journaling, for example, these feelings and thoughts that are flooding you right now, let it out. Because all of these, it's like a pot of boiling water. Yeah. It's gonna overflow whether you like it or not. So might as well lift the lid and allow it to allow the steam to come off like in a healthier way. It's good to put your thoughts and feelings into words so that our brain just wants a coherent story. It wants it so that it can process the experience. So, for example, when we're journaling or when we're talking to someone, um, that gives your mind a way to step back and look at your situation from afar, because then you can process it differently. You're a little bit more objective rather than being brought on a spin by these emotions. Um, Real quick about journaling, let it all out. But I think we should always end it with a hopeful thought, something that's actionable, because that's usually the last thing. Once you put your pen down and you're going about your day or you're going to sleep, the last thing that we write about is usually what lingers. And so it's better to give your mind something helpful to think about, like something to like work on. That could be the last thing to write about. When it comes to loss, remember that grieving shows up very differently for everyone. There's no right or wrong, yeah, unless there's a safety issue. So for example, instead of having thoughts of critical thoughts or judging yourself, like for how you're grieving, just explore what feels right for you. Like think about what gives you comfort and peace while feeling the loss. Remember that your heart and your brain can handle a big platter of emotions, and there's room for all of them. Yeah. Some people find that engaging in activities that commemorates or celebrates the life and the experiences you have with someone you've lost can be helpful. Um, One of the most powerful exercises that I know about is writing a letter to that person or to that pet, to that breakup person that left, And you don't need to write that letter again. You can shred it, you can have some sort of ritual like burning it or something. But the writing it down gives you a way to process and let those emotions out. Coming back to the body physiologically, the feeling of loneliness is like all other emotions and body sensations. It's a signal from your brain that one, you need people. We need connection. That's as human having human brains. That's what our brains are built to do. That's what it's evolved to do. So sometimes having these feelings like of emptiness, loneliness, is what your brain is supposed to do. So to catch your attention, to think about, oh, do I need to call someone? Do I need to look at past videos and feel connected to this person who has passed, again? Let's see. Other thing is mindfulness practice. Again, we're going back to mindfulness. Yeah. Because the principles are simple and it's so helpful. It's a helpful way to get you through challenges, including feeling alone and lonely. And this is where you can start by just acknowledging your feelings, acknowledging that, man, I'm feeling lonely, without judging. That is a key thing. And and when we do that, you can instead approach it by being curious, just exploring like, okay, what is this loneliness about now? Because it might be different from like when you felt it yesterday. And in that exploration, I really think that that's what can bring you to a space where you can start identifying, like it's just presenting to you, your mind is presenting to you this things that you can do, like next helpful things that you can do, even next helpful thoughts, next helpful feelings that you can do. If we are not mindful and if we are judging our feelings, it it puts like a gate from that process. It limits us from getting to that next step. Um, oh, another thing I thought about is when we're exploring loneliness, I think sometimes it's helpful to remember that we have to also learn how to enjoy our own company, right? Because the person we want to reach out to might not be available at this moment. So it's really a balance of being with other people, even people who have passed, so being in the memories of them, and being with yourself. So I think of it as when you're a kid, you can turn into play, for example. You can remember how fun it is to soothe yourself with your hobbies, the favorite things that you're doing on your own, your favorite snack, your favorite show. You can still do that. And don't judge yourself for it. Again, keep it simple because your brain remembers what feels good. And what we're trying to do is the loneliness is there. We're not suppressing it, but we're bringing in other parts of our experiences and other skills to take care of that loneliness. So it's not dragging us down, it's not debilitating us. And last, again, going back to connection, reach out. The longer you wait, the harder it might be. And it's probably easier that it's if someone is not available, move on to your next support. So one thing is right now, if you're feeling good, you're not lonely, or even if you're feeling lonely, have a list of people, have that number next to them, know exactly how you're going to access them. If they are someone who have passed, is it a matter of looking at pictures or writing a letter, right? Or going to the place where you enjoy going to? And I encourage you to have that list ready because we know that when we're stressed, we are not thinking. Yeah. And we might just go in a negative thought spiral. But if you remember to look at your list, that will help you like move on to your coping faster. So, for example, I live in Hawaii, so I love to video chat with friends from far away. Like my best friends are like in the mainland. I have people in the Philippines who I can't access all the time, but use technology, yeah, if possible, for people. If that helps you connect with people, that visual interaction really makes a difference. If you are convinced that you don't have anyone to contact, yeah, there are other ways. You can volunteer, join an activity or a group. Like over here, there's running groups are common, paddling groups are common. find a community where you can share the same interests. So I love getting involved in just online communities for productivity, online communities for like mindfulness. So I know that there are other people who are searching for the same thing, which is calm, happiness.
No, these are all great. Gretchen, thank you so much because the what you are telling us is a lot of preparation. Like the list of names, didn't even think to have a list of names. I think behind that list of names would be our cheat sheet in terms of, you know, how when we were younger and we were allowed to bring like a little paper of cheat sheets, right, for whatever test, right? And we just crammed everything in that little piece of paper. That's actually what I envision is that for those of us who are feeling a certain way or who have certain things that we're managing, then having that list of your tribe, people to call right away, it's great. And then on the back of it would be like, hey, these are your self-care things that you should be doing, your mindfulness, your, pick a hobby or, whatever like hack that we need to use before we attend a party, before we just for holidays in general, just for anything in general, to be honest with you, because that cheat sheet you can put in your pocket and just have it in there and just know that, hey, if I'm feeling a certain way, I can look at this cheat sheet and say, whatever it is I need. I'm going to call a friend, call a family member, or I'm going to use one of these amazing things that Dr. Gretchen has mentioned. And I'm going to laminate that. So thank you for the inspiration because I'm going to do that myself because I feel like I need a reminder. And sometimes just having it in our heads is not enough. There's one question I did want to ask you. It's not on our list, but the question is about comparison. You did talk about that earlier today. And comparison really is probably the hardest thing, especially because there's social media. And when there's Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, right? All of these things are happening. And a lot of us are seeing like, oh my gosh, their turkey looks amazing, or oh my goodness, their tree is so lush. How do we stop comparing ourselves? This is a conversation I had with Nina last night, actually. Nina was so upset about, not upset, but she was looking at all of the things that I'm doing for Junior, for my son. And she is saying, "Can I have this? Can I have that?" And she was comparing, she was saying, I really want this, and how come? In any case, the whole comparison goes along with so many other things, but it's even more prevalent during the holidays when we are seeing it on social media. So how can we stop ourselves from comparing ourselves to others?
Man, we should have a full episode on this because it is such a common thing. And mental health wise, it's one of the biggest triggers that cause people to be symptomatic and actually get like these conditions. So, one, the self check in is important, right? And I think it's really helpful to remember that each person is different, each brain is different. That means each life story, our parents are different, the way we grew up are different. And so, of course, our lives are going to be different. And the next thing is going back to gratitude. Be in the practice, even when you're not thinking about comparison or anything, but just every day, be in practice of gratitude because um, that will help you know that things are good, even if it's not as lavish or big, grand as other people. For example, I have in our fridge a magnetic flat board that says, "Today I'm grateful for," and I just erase it every day. And so I write what I have, and then everyone else starts writing. There's four of us in our family, and we've been doing this for like several months already. And I'm noticing that even my kids, my 6-year old, they are putting things there that are so like simple. You know, I'm thankful for um, having no school today. You know, I'm thankful for the trees. Yeah. And for my husband, it's great because I actually, it's like a love letter to each of us every day because sometimes he would say, oh, I'm thankful for mama for being my best friend. Like I don't hear him say that, but I, and so those little things, find a way to have gratitude practice because when you are anchored in that, you are less likely to compare. And so when you're noticing that you're starting to like compare, be in practice of admiration and just wishing people well. Yeah. I see a big tree, like a lavish stuff, people getting together, friends getting together, and I'm not invited, those kinds of things. You know, I think right away, again, cut that circuit right away. Okay, listen to your body because when your heart feels heavy, you gotta like, okay, time to slow down, cut it out, and then say, oh man, good for them. I'm so glad that they got together. If it's comparison about what people have, career wise, money wise, cars, whatever, looks, wow, that's really awesome. I love January's hair. Like I have curly hair. My hair will never be like yours. Yeah. And when I was young, I'm sure I probably thought, man, I wish it was hair and shine, long and shiny and smooth and everything. But if you learn how to like really like be grateful for what you have and then looking at someone else's, oh man, I love that. I love that they got that or they're doing this. How did they do that? Admire, wish them well, celebrate for them. It's not about you, it's about their accomplishments, right? And then when you make it about you, you think about, okay, is it something like that? Is there a version like that that I want? Do I want that too? And if you're so convinced that you want that accomplishment or you want that type of partner. You can't want the same person because then someone else has that person, right? You want the same type of person. Then you think about, okay, well, get curious. How did they get that? What steps are needed? How is this information relevant to me? Because I know that my brain and my life story, my habits, my patterns are different. So my version of that is going to be very different. So really the comparison to another person it's just a limitation because really the fair comparison is about how you were yesterday and your past experiences. That's because that's your brain, your experiences, right? Not with other people. When you are seeing something from other people, take that as just external data to see how do I get started to get my version of that. Don't get caught in the trap. Yeah. And if you find yourself doing that, get out of the trap right away because it's not worth it. It's a waste of your energy and it limits you from getting what you really want.
That was exceptional. Uh, Actually, it reminded me of something that January posted in our Sexy, Successful, and Soul Fed Facebook group. I had posted up a question about just putting some random advice in there, and a bunch of the members just posted up different different messages of advice to everybody. Had nothing to do with any particular subject. But I really like January's because it said everyone you come in contact with is either a mirror or a message. And then when you were talking about questioning yourself when you find yourself comparing, that's a good piece of advice and a good practice to have because it goes back to what you were talking about, mindfulness being the key to a lot of our mental health abilities to be more healthy in that area is just questioning yourself and saying, well, why? Well, what is the message? Or like you said, what is it something that I want for me? Instead of just being like, stop comparing, be happy for them. Like you're almost like forcing yourself to do it inauthentically. And then you may be shutting off a message or the mirror. So thank you. That was really great advice.
Thank
This was
you.
a great episode. I'm very thankful that you're here for us, Gretchen, because you are just amazing. You're an amazing soul. I love all of the tips that you shared with us. And I hope that our listeners who are tuning in to us, thank you very much to our listeners, actually. And I hear it and I see it. People are saying, oh my gosh, that was a great episode. And thank you. We are forever grateful for you. And we look forward to hearing from you, any feedback that you have for Dr. Gretchen, any questions that you have. Please send it to us because she is a resident psychiatrist, and we honor her and we honor her time. And so, if you have anything that you'd like to ask her, please feel free to send it to us. Gretchen, where can we find you?
I just started a YouTube channel. There's not much in there, but I'm starting to just share some message there. So you can find me on YouTube at The Mental Path. I'm also on Instagram, the_mental_path or thementalpath.com. Thank you for having me here.
Helen, where can we find you?
Yes, thank you again, Dr. Gretchen Gavero. And also to our audience, if you do have any questions, we prefer you to email it to us so we can see it clearly and get it to Dr. Gavero. Email us at sexyfreedomnow@gmail. It will also be in the show notes. You can find me, Helen, on Hell of a Journey. That's HELOFAJOURNEY on Instagram. You can also Google Nothing Sexier Than Freedom by Helen Edwards, and I will pop right up. And you can find our Facebook group, Sexy, Successful, and Soul Fed. And please consider leaving us a review or sharing our show, because this helps us get the word out and helps other women find our show who may need a show just like this. January, where can they find you?
Thank you again to everyone here on our podcast and everyone who's tuning in. You can find me at Anchored Financial LLC or Instagram, same Anchored Financial, or Alina the Honeymaker, both on Facebook and Instagram. And please buy my book, Alina the Super Saver. You can find it on Amazon, BarnesandNobles.com, Walmart. If you are here on island, it's at Barnes & Noble at Ala Moana. If you're in Indiana, it's at the Open Door. If you're in Wyoming, it's at the Wind City Bookstore. And that's it. You Google my name, you'll find me. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Aloha.
Want to hear more?
Visit us at sexyfreedommedia.com.